right, here we are, last day of class. Okay. We were reviewing real quick. I want to make sure that I told you to do chapter 15 quiz. Did I tell you to do chapter 15 quiz? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come back to me. That's not what I wanted. Chapter 15 quiz. It's published. Let me edit it so that it'll show up in your feed with the due date. Let's get it done by Sunday. Is that all right? Points. We like points. Anytime we can get more points. All right, so we were reviewing for the final exam. Where did we leave off? We were in the middle of chapter 11, I want to say.
That was chapter 10.
Was it 10? Well, let's see.
Did you take a screenshot?
I did not. And I referenced something in my piano class from the theory book, so I'm not even in the right place. So 10 was the sentence, the period, the cadence, the cadence types, the motive, all that stuff, right? We were in the middle of 11 because we were talking about the different, the one-to-one counterpoint and all the errors. Do you remember that? So I think let's pick up there. See how quick we can get through this. Okay, so different types of errors. Features of the melodic line. So contour, more conjunct than disjunct. Variety is preferred. Don't use more than 2 consecutive pitches and don't do it across a bar line. Don't let the melody only go one direction. You should have a focal point. Range should be no less than a fifth, no more than a tenth. Leading tone resolution needs to happen. Go to melodic minor if you can. Avoid augmented intervals, the 2 exceptions being the diminished fourth and the diminished fifth. If you're going the descending intervals, scale degree 3, raise scale degree 7 in minor, and scale degree 4 and raise scale degree 7 in either mode are acceptable. Those are the 2 augmented intervals that you can have. Treatment of leaps. Proceed and follow it with opposite direction, yeah. Consecutive leaps in the same direction. You should use no more than 2 consecutive leaps in the same direction. When using 2 consecutive leaps, you should proceed and follow the entire pair of leaps by motion in the opposite direction. Consecutive leaps in the same direction, total span. 2 consecutive leaps in the same direction should together span a fifth, a sixth, or an octave. Proceed and follow the pair by motion in the opposite direction. So those are all of the melody norms to consider. And then here they are one by one. with an actual example. We're leaping all over the place. In A and B, we have 3 of the same pitch, repeated notes, and across a bar line, tisk, tisk. Only going one direction. We have 2 focal points. Small range. We don't resolve our leading tone. We didn't use melodic minor. We had bad leaps and we didn't treat them right. Isolated leap, not followed by the opposite direction. 3 leaps in a row, all in the same direction. 2 consecutive leaps that do in the same direction that do not span a 5th, 6th, or octave. So that was that. Are we all right with that? I got an email from McGraw-Hill yesterday. They want me to take a survey about their book. I wrote back and I said, I've got a lot to say. Send me the link. There's a lot of errors that need to be fixed. So bad news, they're coming out with a new edition.
Did you ask them to hire you to fix those problems?
Did you ask him to put your name in the front of the book?
I will.
Was
At
there
the
any
end of
doubt
this-
that they'd be coming out with a new book anyways?
Well, I guess it's good that they'll hopefully fix stuff, but in the digital age, it doesn't matter anymore. But back in the day, kids would just grumble when they knew the new version was coming out because it meant they couldn't sell back their old book. So if you have a hard copy and you want to sell it back, do it now because the new version's coming. All right. Composing the contrapuntal voice. What is this? It's just composing the soprano part, yeah? So 1-to-1 counterpoint, 2 voices, rhythmic, follow all the rules. Yay, we're done with chapter 11. Chapter 12, NCTs, part 1. Do you remember your non-chord tones? I would definitely know this chart right here. Yeah. How they're approached, how they're left. This is definitely on your final exam. And I have to say that the wrong answer choices are amazing. Like, I think for anticipation, I wrote, the feeling of when I'll be able to see Dr. Bascom again in person.
That's a trick question. That's the one that's correct. Actually, no, both answers are appropriate.
Okay, so know those, yeah? Any questions on NCTs? Be able to label them. Isn't it weird looking back? Like, this was such a hard chapter, but then you're total pros at it now. Like, this was such new stuff, and you're like, wait, which one's which? And now you look at it, and you're like, passing tone, neighbor tone, sus. You got a lot quicker at it, didn't you? Some of you were like, I'm still too slow at it. No. All right, so we know what passing tones are. They pass straight through, right? Remember when we had to count the distance between all the notes? Oh, that was horrible. Embellishing versus composing. So you could fill in the blanks if you had to. With passing tones, right? Good spots is where there's a third apart, yeah? Just fill it in. Neighboring tone. Can be an upper or a lower. Can be an accented. Do you remember The Good Musician? Do you remember that? Do you remember that line? That was a horrible line. Suspension. Suspension has a preparation and a note of resolution. We had the suspension with the change of bass.
Can we go over suspension with change of bass?
Sure.
In the bass as well? Because I'm always shaky about that.
When a suspension occurs in one of the upper voices, the bass will sometimes move on to another chord tone at the same time as the suspension resolves. This device is referred to as a suspension with change of bass. In such a case, a 7/6 suspension, for example, might become a 7/3 suspension. So the numbers are off. They're not one after the other because of the movement of the bass. It is also possible to move the upper part of the dissonance as the bass resolves in a 2/3 suspension, creating a 2/6 suspension. So here we are in D major. Now I'm going to do that again and not move the bass. There's my 7/6 suspension. Now I'm going to move it and do it just like it's written. So what would have been a 7/6 becomes a 7/3 because the bass moved. The second one. So we had a fourth, which would be a 4/3. Let me play it the 4/3 way. I think that'd be a better way for them to show it, but that's just me talking Mr. Pedagogy here. So because the bass moves, that number is going to change, and it's not going to be what you think it would be or should be. Does that help? Let's look at the last one. So that one, the upper voice moves because we're expecting a 2/3 suspension. But in this case, the soprano moves up to give us the 6. Does that make sense? Questions?
Just want to go over the change of bass.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's in the bass line.
Say that again.
Can you look at the suspension when it's in this bass line?
Yeah, did we pass that already?
You sure? Since it's not right after the
Bass suspension. Example 12-14 summarizes the common suspensions. Notice that the second number is larger than the first only in the 2/3 suspension, a type sometimes referred to as a bass suspension. In textures involving more than two parts, the vertical intervals are calculated between the bass and the suspended part. If the bass itself is suspended, the interval is calculated between the bass and the part with which it is most dissonant, generally a second or a ninth above in a 2/3 suspension. With the exception of the 9/8 suspension, the note of resolution should not be present anywhere in the texture when a suspension occurs. So we are in B flat major. The soprano, we're in measure 2. The soprano is consonant. The alto is the most dissonant and has the resolution, right? So it's a 4/3 suspension with that. Third one. So there's your 9/8. And the last one. That one, the bass moves. So typically the number goes down, 7, 6, 4, 3, 9, 8. But if the bass moves, then it goes up because it becomes wider. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
All right. We talked about retardations. It's an upward suspension. Sorry. It's a double whammy. You get a suspension in the other two parts. Because they go down. But you get the retardation in the soprano because it goes up.
You have to write numbers for retardations as well?
Ooh.
Or just suspensions?
It looks like it because it says the retardation in this context usually involves 7 resolving up to 1, but I don't know.
Would you write 7-1 or 7-8?
Oh, that's a good question too. I don't know that we're even gonna mark them. I mean, we'd identify them because it's a non-chord tone. I wouldn't worry about it. Be able to if you need to in your life, but you're not going to need to for this class. That's what I'll say. Be able to do everything you need to do in life, but you don't have to do it for this class. I don't know. All right. A suspension is a non-chord tone that is approached by blank and left by blank.
Same note, step.
Good. A neighboring tone is a non-chord tone that is approached by blank and left by blank.
Step, then leap. I think.
Anybody?
It's a step and a step. But it returns to the step it came from.
The neighboring tone is a step and a step in the opposite direction. The retardation is a non-chord tone that is approached by same note and left by
Step up.
good. Passing tone is a non-chord tone that is approached by
Step.
and left by
Step.
in the
same direction.
Very good. Provide the Arabic numbers that are used to label the 4 common types of suspensions.
4, 3, 9, 8, 7, 6, 2, 3.
You got it. Good job. Everybody get that? 7/6 4 3 9 8 2 3. There's a great example right there. 12-14. It has all four of them. Cool. Oh, it's Catherine's favorite watermelon chart. There's this graph, and it looks like.
I wonder if they updated this in the new edition.
I'm gonna make sure they keep it.
They make all the charts like that.
Catherine Forbes the Great has requested.
It's fine. I won't see it, so it's fine. You can torture your other students with it. I'm happy. Well, it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't just like, why are they changing it up in the middle of the end of the book?
I'll make that comment. Lots of lack of consistency.
I mean, it's true.
All right. We talked about lead sheet symbols, slash chords. All right. Oh, there's the plane. Is it to your house yet?
Are you going to have us be sacrilegious and put lead sheet symbols over Bach?
Over Bach? Definitely not. So that's that chapter. We're on to 13. Non-chord tones, part 2. Appoggiaturas. Appoggiaturas are also called incomplete neighbors. They're accented. They're approached by ascending leap and left by descending step, according to this chapter. But according to our chart, they're approached by leap and left by step. Tchaikovsky.
Example 13:1.
So there you go. And then we found like a bunch of other stuff. Like we found something else. Like in the Canadian book, we called something else. Another email from McGraw-Hill, now from the Senior Director of Customer Experience Marketing.
I thought they were going to do a cease and desist letter about their name over YouTube or something.
That's coming. It's just not here yet. I only have 322 subscribers, so.
Pretty dang influential, Dr. B.
It's kind of like Fight Club right now. It's all underground. All right. So we know what appoggiaturas are.
Example 13:2.
Got to learn that one.
Do they talk about neighbor groups in this chapter?
I hope so. Escape tones, also called an incomplete neighbor, is the reverse of that of the appoggiatura because the escape tone is approached by step and left by a leap in the opposite direction. They are usually shorter than a beat, unaccented, and diatonic. Also used frequently at cadences.
Example 13-3.
Did you miss it? Did you blink?
Example 13-3.
Approach by step, left, and leap in the opposite direction. Neighbor group, just what you wanted. A common method of embellishing a single tone involves a combination of two NCTs in succession. The first being an escape tone, the second an appoggiatura. The figure is referred to as a neighbor group, also called cambiata or changing tones. As example 13-4 illustrates, the neighbor group bears a resemblance to a neighboring tone figure. Or, and it is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's all they said about the neighboring group, the neighbor group. So what do you think?
I think I always forget to look for it.
Yeah. Anticipation. Do you remember my good knock knock joke? Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow who?
Did you like that? You'll never forget your anticipation again.
I mean, I already forgot the joke and forget the anticipation.
That cuts deep. Oh.
I pretty much forget all your jokes until you say them again.
So it just comes in early, right? Like a half of a beat too early. So here we are, B flat major. That B flat comes in half a beat too early. Instead of just being or, we have an anticipation. Now this does not count for the violas coming in on the wrong beat. This is actually written into the score, right?
No, they're being artistic.
A little license. All right.
Example 13-6.
Just one half beat too early.
Example 13-7.
Now, there's another thing called free anticipation. Hold on, the last one that we heard was an anticipation by leap. Most of them are by step. That one was by leap.
Example 13-7.
And then a free anticipation is one that is approached and left by leap.
Example 13-8.
Is the other anticipation that leaps and then steps? Or go up one to the last one we just did?
Same tone.
Called differently?
It's got to go to the same note, right? But this one is different in that it outlines a triad.
Why is it called free anticipation?
I don't know. Sorry, dealing with life over here. So free anticipation outlines a triad, where a normal anticipation is the same note. And the book says that this is the least commonly encountered variety.
What is the they've got brackets on top and then on bottom and it's got a little swooly switch. What is that?
We're talking about this bracket here,
Yeah.
this bracket here, or both.
And the little swooshy thing that connects them.
Oh. They're showing that the same idea happens in the soprano, and then it happens in the bass. Same idea happens in both voices. And it actually overlaps. So why they didn't say, this is also a free anticipation, I don't know.
Because only the soprano is playing that, I think. I don't know, that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Anyway,
have the stems like that.
I wouldn't lose too much sleep over the free anticipation. It will not show up on your final. Pedal point. It's really in a class by itself. That's why we saved it for last. Pedal point is a compositional device that begins as a chord tone, then becomes a non-chord tone as the harmonies change around it, and then ends up as a chord tone when the harmony is once again in agreement with it.
Example 13:9.
So here it's a chord tone, here and here it's not, and then here it is a chord tone. That's not true. I guess it is true. I still think it's a chord tone when it's part of the 4 chord, but it's definitely not when it's part of the 7 chord.
Example 13:10.
Cool. Does everybody understand the pedal point? Questions?
Example 13:11.
So you can have them in flute literature in the accompaniment part as well. All right. Special problems. You can have chromatic passing tones. These are just examples that can be seen different ways. I wouldn't really worry about this. Implied harmonies, things you can argue about. Are they really non-chord tones? That's going to be the rest of your life. Arguing one side or the other. Having an opinion on non-chord tones. Cool. We made it through 13. 14 was all about the dominant 7th chord. Do you remember this chapter? I have no recollection of this chapter. Dominant 7ths are almost always major minor 7ths or dominant 7ths. That's what we refer to them as. Major triad, minor 7th. First we have the dominant, now we have the dominant 7th. Pretty straightforward, I think. General voice leading considerations for the dominant 7th. 7th almost always resolves down by step, the 7th of the chord. Not the 7th of the key. That's the confusing part. The 7th of the chord is the 7th of the the 7th of the dominant chord is a 4, is a scale degree 4. And it's fa going to mi. Are you with me? Here we are in A minor. So the highlighted note in pink, in the pink box, is the 7th of the 5/7, not the 7th of A minor. With me? Those are the two things we got to keep clear. Because the 7th of A minor is this note right here in my orange box, and it most definitely resolves up T to Do. But fa is going to go to mi, which is the 7th of the 5/7. With me? Okay. So that's one consideration. When you're working with the 5/7, you also need to consider the leading tone. When it is in an outer part, the leading tone almost always resolves up by step, T to Do. To convince yourself of this, play example 14-4B and notice the disappointing effect of the cadence. We're in A minor. Ouch, that was my knee. Debbie Downer. We didn't get our resolution we wanted. Here's A. It'll make you feel better about life. Ah, T went to Do. All is good and right in the world. So, resolve your leading tone appropriately. This is what I just said. This is what should have been said first. When you apply these two principles, not to confuse the 7th of the chord with the 7th scale degree. The 7th of the chord, Fa, resolves down to Mi. The 5/7 chord is a major minor 7th chord. The 3rd of the chord, scale degree 7, resolves up to... See, they should have started with this. This is my comment for you, McGraw-Hill's, part of the survey you want me to take. Do it in the right order.
Can you consider it a survey by the end of your essay?
I don't know. I'm excited, though. It's going to be fun. All right.
Like links to all your videos and be like,
As shown here.
3,
As seen on YouTube. All right. The approach to the 7th. We've seen that the resolution of the 7th, of the dominant 7th, or any 7th chord, is usually down by step. Fa, Mi. The way in which the 7th is approached should be considered in any detailed analysis because different approaches have different musical effects. One way of doing this is to classify the contour of the voice that has the chord 7th using NCT terminology. If the chord tone preceding the 7th is the same pitch class as the 7th, that just means the same tone, we will use the term suspension figure. I don't even know why we had to have this conversation. If the note is a step above the 7th, we will use the term passing tone figure. Step below, we will use the term neighbor tone figure. Skip above. Sorry, skip below, up, step down, appoggiatura. B flat. Played that wrong. So it's a suspension because it's the same note. B, passing tone figure. Letter C is a neighbor tone. And D is the appoggiatura. I'm sure there's a point to this, but I don't know what it is. 5/7 in root position. The 7th Fa must resolve down by step to Mi, scale degree 4 to 3. The 3rd of the chord, T, when in the top part, must resolve up by step. Another way of looking at this is to remember the resolution of the tritone. Augmented fourth resolves outward to a sixth, diminished fifth, inward to a third. We are in E minor. They omitted the fifth. We have three roots: basses, altos, sopranos. Okay, here's the diminished fifth. B-do, B-do, B-do. And we have two roots, two thirds. Very unusual. We have omitted the fifth. The resolution of 5/7 to an incomplete triad is not an error to be avoided and is, in fact, a very common occurrence, especially in final cadences. Well, Schubert, Death of the Major.
Example 14:8.
We are missing our fifth. There's no A there. Non-chord tone on top. There's my tritone. If you want to resolve the root position 5/7 in 4 parts to a complete tonic triad, either of these methods will work. Use an incomplete dominant seventh, omitting the fifth, and double your root. Use a complete dominant seventh, but put the leading tone, the third of the dominant seventh, in the inner part and frustrate its natural resolution by taking it down a major third to the fifth of the tonic triad. Here they are in D major. We have an incomplete dominant seventh. We've got root, root, third, missing our fifth, and of course we have to have our seventh. So that's one way of doing it. Or frustrate the leading tone in an inner voice. Root, third, fifth, seventh. But luckily the altos saved the day. So your ear hears the resolution because T does go to do, but it goes from the tenor's voice part to the altos, so it sounds funky if you're listening in choral voicing. But if you're just playing the piano, nobody knows. You with me? Does that make sense? This is great to know for life. This is not necessarily going to show up on your final. But I wanted to mention it as part of our overview here, yeah? More examples.
Rooney,
Yes,
why is this in the laundry room?
because I washed it last night.
So it's clean?
No. The dominant seventh in 3 parts. We talked about what we can omit and what we cannot omit. Yeah? Can omit the seventh. Can omit the third. Well, you can omit the third, but it's rare because that tells us whether we're major or minor. So if we're going to omit something, the fifth is the one that you should omit. That's all that's about. other resolutions of the dominant seventh. You can go to a 6th chord, just like you could with the triad, right? Deceptive cadence. But now you have a dominant seventh. It's deceiving. Good stuff to know, but not on your test. The inverted dominant 7th chord. Again, you're going to want to reference this again when you start to do more heavy part writing in Theory 3, if that in fact happens. So you're going to want to know this chapter to look up these resolutions, you know, how to deal with every part writing scenario. But again, this is not what I'm testing you on. Cool. We can put it in first inversion. Composers often do. We can put it in second inversion, third inversion. Know your numbers. It's kind of an interesting chapter. Longer than I think it needed to be. And then we talked about, most recently, in chapter 15, the other diatonic 7th chords. I would know this chart. Frequent use to less frequent use of the 7th chords that are not, well, your dominant 7th's on the end of it because it's the most frequently used. But know those. Yeah? That will show up on your final. And then we went through blow by blow of every type of 7th chord. There's another one from McGraw-Hill. Where'd it go? The 2K65. Oops. Page 240, McGraw-Hill. We talked about the 2 chord, the 7 chord, 7 chord in major and minor, the 4 chord, 6 chord, the 1 chord, the 3 chord, the least frequently used one. We talked about circle of 5th progressions. And we listened to a lot of Corelli. We know how to write these 7th chords, yes? We did a lot of that work in your workbook. Now, let me go play by play here on the test and see what's on it without sharing my screen. Darn it. And
What?
make sure that I've gone over everything that you need to know for life. Where are we?
Called studying for the test, Doctor.
That's right. Hey, study groups. Where are we? Final exam. Preview. All right, so you will be given a musical example with dashes on it. 11 dashes to be precise. And you have to analyze what is this piece? We have to analyze the chords. It's a little Clementi piece. So you have to be able to write in Roman numerals, but it's going to be multiple guess from a drop-down menu. Cool. We can do that. Question 2 is going to be all about your cadences. It's essentially a matchy-matchy of your cadences. Know your cadences. Number 3 is a Mozart Sonata excerpt with a match the appropriate diagram from 6 choices. Is it a parallel period? Is it a contrasting period? Is it a sentence? Etc., etc. Remember, the easiest way to figure out which one is right and which one is wrong is to find your cadences. You got it. I'm not even worried. I'm not losing sleep out of anybody in this room. Even Ethan Gong can do it. Are you awake over there, Ethan?
Sort of. I've been having allergies throughout this, so
Oh,
distracting. But yeah.
I have allergies when I'm at the pulpit at church. That's when my eyes start watering. But that was a joke. All right, question 4. Know how seventh chords resolve. We just went over that. Question 5 is about doubling. Question 6 is about omitting. We just went over that. I'm not sure that we went over 4 so well. Can we go over 4 again? Seventh chords. This was chapter 14. I'm looking. If a member of the 5/7 chord is to be doubled, it is usually the...
Root and seventh.
You got to pick one. Root, third, fifth, or seventh. It's not going to be the seventh. It's the root, isn't it? Well, let me go back. Can't find it. Yes. No. Chapter 14. Whoa. I don't know if this is working. Oh, there it goes. Let's see. It's not working. You got to use their search. There it is. If a member of the 5/7 is to be doubled, it is usually the blank. It's never answered. Where is the answer? To arrive at a complete tonic chord, either the 5/7 must be incomplete itself, or the leading tone must be an inner voice. Does anybody see it? I don't see it. Pretty sure, though, it's going to be the root. I'd just like to know where it is in the book. Yeah. Using an incomplete dominant seventh, this is page 222. Omitting the fifth, or much less commonly the third, and doubling the root. Yeah? All right. Know those frequency of seventh chords. Know your non-chord tones. I'm going to give you an excerpt with letters that have non-chord tones in them, and you have to analyze what are the non-chord tones from a list. There's clearly a mistake on that. Well, I hope it got fixed. Well, I guess it's not a mistake. It's just weird. Okay, that works. You need to be able to identify cadences written out. Like if they're on a staff, be able to say, oh, that's this cadence. Yeah? Can you do that? You need to be able to label more non-chord tones that are given in a parenthesis from the score. And you need to be able to score seventh chords. Or identify seventh chords given to you on a staff. You need to know, what is that question about? Oh, given a chord on a staff and the key that you are in, you need to be able to analyze the chord. And they're gonna be seventh chords, diatonic seventh chord. Well, yeah, other diatonic seventh chords from chapter 15. Being able to analyze them on a staff. Questions, comments, concerns, friends with questions.
When you talk about omitting, it's like what you mentioned on the seventh chord, omitting the fifth.
Right.
Or like on the circle of fifths, a full chord and then a partial chord.
Will you have the circle of fifths? Will we be test on that as well?
Pete, I'm not understanding your question.
Well, I'm just wondering. So when you talk about omitting chords, chord tones, you're just talking about like what you just mentioned with the seventh, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So where is it? It's in one of the checkpoint questions.
Which, I didn't hear the answer. What, when doubling, did you ever find that answer?
Yes, it's on page 222, I believe. Maybe not. Did I lie? I think I lied. No, I didn't lie. Using an incomplete seventh chord, omitting the fifth, or much less commonly the third, and doubling the root. That's one method. So, the root. So, we can't omit the seventh, right, Pete? Or we no longer have a seventh chord. We can't omit the root, or now we have a seven chord. VII chord. We can't omit the third. We can, but they say it's the least commonly done one because that tells us whether we're major or minor. So the one to leave out is the fifth. And you remember when we had physics demonstration day and I tried to play that note really loud so you could hear that your ear fills in that note automatically? That's what it's all about. Other questions?
Is that same idea true on, like, for instance, if you're in a circle of fifths where you have a complete chord and a partial chord, is the same thing hold true? The fifth is omitted generally? Am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making sense. Yeah. Hey there. Getting a keyboard returned. Yeah. But when it comes to triads, yeah, same thing.
What?
Yeah. You can't leave out your third because that tells you whether you're major or minor.
She shouldn't be.
So. All right. I want to make sure that I addressed the quiz. We talked about it, but did we even look at it? All right, here's our quiz for chapter 15. So notate seventh chords. Good prep for your final. More of this from your workbook. And complete these circle of fifth chord progressions. So there you go. Questions, comments, concerns on that? Questions, comments, concerns on anything in life? Are you registered for 3? Theory and ear training 3? Are you registered for piano teaching in the fall? Music 150? Should be called music teaching because you don't have to be a pianist, but you should come take it. I think 2 of you are registered and a bunch more of you need to get in it. Nico, Ethan, Claire, Catherine, David. Come learn how to run a music business. That's all I've got. Happy to answer any questions if you want to hang.
So we're not meeting for this class?
We are meeting for this class.
Mm-hmm.
Meet for the final? Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking? Yes, we are. The final is... Wait for it. Say again?
Wednesday.
Is that when it is?
That's what I've got in my calendar.
Wednesday at 8 a.m. We'll take this. Yeah.
There's like extra time to study.
Yeah. You got a week. In a week from now, you'll be done. You'll be like, that was the easiest final I've ever taken. I love Dr. B. I'm going to give him a chili pepper. They don't do chili peppers anymore.
Question: if we bake brownies, are they going to be?
Better not make my wife's.
I was about to say, are they going to be cakey or what? Fudgy?
I just posted about that for Mother's Day, actually. What else? It's been fun. It's been real. It's even been real fun a couple times. I'm here. You know where to find me. Come to my office hours if you need help with anything. I really mean that. I'm here if you need help. You need a shoulder to cry on. You need help researching an institution. You need help getting mental health help. You need help getting food. I'm here. Come find me. I will get you the help you need. Yeah? You know I love you. You know how to find me.
Love you too, Dr. B.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. B.
You are welcome.
Thank you, Dr. B.
Yep.
Dr. B.
See ya.